This is the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, and I've used it for the past several months. And I want to share the truth of its usefulness and if it was actually worth it. Whether you're a beginner looking for a good first camera, or a pro looking for another companion camera, there's something to take away from this one. And in the end, I'll mention a little of my thoughts of what they really should be putting in the Pocket 4. DJI isn't sponsoring this video as I pre-ordered this on launch day and ordered it myself like everybody else. Before getting this camera, I had a good vlogging setup that gave me the quality that I was looking for. But over time, it proved too troublesome to bring around, to set up, and to shoot with. So I sold my vlogging lens, stowed away my vlogging tripod, and decided to try this guy instead. As someone who never bought the other versions of this camera, I was glad that I waited for this one. But can the Pocket 3 help me shoot the way that I want without carrying around too much gear? And without compromising as much on image quality? Well, let's first talk about how it affects my workflow. As a hobbyist photo and video shooter nowadays, I saw this camera as a means to document my life and document behind the scenes for my YouTube stuff and any other shoots that I might have. If I want the best quality, then I know that I can pick up my Sony FX30 with something like the Tokina 11 to 18mm f2.8. But the problem with that is that I ended up hardly using the setup at all and often left desiring more. Instead of just bringing my wide angle lens, I would also bring another zoom lens to capture the way that I like and the way that I want, which totally defeated the purpose of traveling lighter and shooting casually when my bag weighs more than I had intended, and setup turned out to be more tedious and time consuming than the good time that I was meant to have by just living in the moment. So I just pick up a sling bag instead of a backpack, pick up my camera in its hard case, and toss it in my bag without even noticing it's there. Then when I'm in the field, I'm ready, I take it out, turn it on, compose, make sure my setting is good, and just hit record. If I want to be more intentional and talk to the camera, I could use the DJI Mic 2 that it came with in the creator combo and just simply point the camera to myself and talk. I've been recording in 32-bit float so that my audio is always good in post-production and don't have to worry about my settings every time. When I want B-roll of me, I just hand this over to my wife, instruct her how to move with the camera, and it's easy for her to do with the first few tries. And she's not a camera person. She just pities me every time I walk around with a 10-pound bag of camera gear that I actually don't end up using most of the time. For a small camera, I have lots of options with how I want to shoot, whether static or in motion, with a default profile or a log profile. And if the best camera is the camera you'll actually use, this one is a strong candidate. But just because the setup is small, is the quality actually good? For me, yes, it's great. Camera snobs will tell you it's a small sensor and it's trash. It's not full frame, Super 35, or micro 4/3 size. And I agree to that argument to a certain degree. One of the reasons why I don't rely on other potential cameras like the GoPro or any other action camera is the sensor size. It's not great to shoot in low light, and it's not that much better than my phone. If I grab a GoPro, it's for action. It's not because I can see in the dark or for its superb image quality. The DJI Osmo Pocket 3 sports a 1-inch sensor, which is bigger than most sensors in any smartphone nowadays. And I think the footage looks better. Alright, maybe by a little bit. But the only other camera that I use with a 1-inch sensor is the Sony RX100 Mark III. This is my favorite camera to use around when I was going around in the Philippines for the times that I would visit my long-distance girlfriend. The image quality was indeed better than my phone, with crisper detail and contrast was just great. Pair that up with its optical zoom, manual exposure mode, and ND filter, and you've got most of what you need. Yeah, I enjoy using the Sony FX30 with my Sigma 18-35, but nowadays, unless I have something pre-planned to shoot or an event going on, I don't miss out that much by using the Pocket 3 instead. If anything, I just use the Sony FX30 for more medium to telephoto range shots. If you're worried about sensor size, this is plenty enough for most, whether you need a quick establishing shot but can't afford a fancy mirrorless camera and a dedicated gimbal, or if you just want a better looking image as a casual user. So it works well, looks great, but what about the other tools that I use with this? Are they actually useful, or are they just gimmicks? Although I did get this with the creator combo, let me first address the carrying case. Not the pouch though, the hard case. It's underrated for the reasons that not only is it easier and quicker to protect your gimbal camera, but it's also easier to carry your accessories. The creator combo included a DJI Mic 2 with a clip that I can fit both at the top easily. With the hard case, this can also double as a kind of microphone handle that you can point to your talent and yourself. But I don't use it this way. I at least just know that I can stow away the mic at the top without it getting lost in my bag amongst other loose items. This hard case can accommodate the regular grip as well as the battery grip attached. It's a little tall, but again, it's a single unit, less loose items in your bag. But of all the things inside the hard case, it allows for 2 magnetic filters to just drop in easy. The creator combo includes the wide angle filter that turns your 20mm lens into a 15mm lens, which I keep right up at the top. Then on the bottom, I reserve it for any ND filter that I want to have ready. So when I went out to a beach in Arizona, I just kept a freewheel ND filter and polarizer right at the bottom. But if you're okay with it, you can also leave the filter on your lens, on your camera. It will just protrude out. Should you get the creator combo? Well, it depends. If you think you do not need the battery grip, if you just have your own wireless mic and don't use filters, then you can still enjoy the camera as is. If you're curious to see what other accessories you can use with this camera, I do have a video that I link down below and at the end of this video. So it's easy to pack, easy to shoot good images, easy to adapt to different situations, but is it reliable? Has this camera let me down? Kinda. It's disappointing that the videos start splitting after it records 16 gigabytes worth of footage, so keep that in mind if you want long footage recordings, or long footage, if you record long footage. But other than that, the battery life on the extra battery grip has been great as I haven't had to worry about depleting the battery. The only time that I started using a battery bank to keep the Pocket 3 charged while using is when I was doing time lapses. If you're the type of person who doesn't religiously charge their devices, the extra battery grip is handy when you forget to charge your Pocket 3, but just want to set it down and pick it up and take it on the go. And if you're driving to your destination, don't worry, because you can use a USB-C charger and charge this while you're going to go where you need to go. Charge it on the way. However, if you think you're going to be so fancy with the smart modes and smart tracking, just know that it's good enough for slow to medium paced movements of your subject. If you think you're going to track fast moving subjects, the smart tracking won't keep up that well, unless you're the one keeping up well and you're able to keep this thing nice and steady. Another thing to note is that if people or things pass in front of you while tracking your subject, the actual smart tracking may not be able to keep up. Other than those things, I usually just get short clips of specific movements or subjects, and I really don't complain about those other tracking situations. Sometimes we just have to press record until we get the shot right. But if there's something to complain about, it may be the following. First issue being, there's no aperture control. For the more advanced camera shooters, depending on what you actually plan to do with this camera, you can have full manual control except for the aperture. It's locked in at f2. This is a good thing and also a tricky thing, because if you want to obey the 180-degree rule and get your motion blur with your shutter speed that is twice the frame rate, you have to use an ND filter. If you've never used an ND filter before, they're practically sunglasses for your lenses. They allow you to keep a shutter speed without overexposing or keeping your image too bright. As great as filters can be, they can also be pretty small when attaching and removing from your lens. At least the ones from Freewell. But they work great, but sometimes I feel like I need to keep my nails long just to remove them from my lens. So overall, if you want to follow the rules of filmmaking, you need ND filters. You can't get away with closing an aperture since the Pocket 3 doesn't allow this. If you're okay with cranking up your shutter speed or leaving your camera on auto, then perhaps the next issue may bother you. And that's the auto focus. It's good, but it's not always quite smooth. If you want to shoot top-down shots or a product showcase kind of shots, like right up close to the camera, you will have a little bit of abrupt focus hunting or locking of some sort instead of a smooth autofocus from the background to the foreground and vice versa. You could use a single point autofocus, but you just got to be consistent with your distance in front of the camera. I put up with it, but it's not a selling point for me. I still choose this camera over a vlogging lens that has a much smoother autofocus because of how much value the Pocket 3 gives. Who knows, maybe you may not even notice it. But if DJI really wanted me to buy the future Pocket 4, make the autofocus smoother, and even implement AI. Bonus points if you include an ND filter built in, but anyway, I think using AI to improve the smart tracking experience would be great, being able to predict or at least lock onto faces better, especially when objects are passing through the frame, so that you can always track your subject, or at least most of the time. And maybe even adding smart gestures similar to that of like a Samsung with taking pictures. I think they like close their hand or something like that. Or OptiSpot with tracking and zooming gestures. Or as I mentioned before in my previous review, maybe DJI could add some zoom buttons or something on the side, or make them customizable as well. This, you're tired. This isn't completely necessary, but it would be cool. In the end, is this camera still for everyone? Yes, whether you're casual or professional, I believe this camera provides so much value for the price and even future-proofs you for the next couple years and longer. If you really don't plan to do a lot of action activities throughout the year, skip the action camera and get this little guy instead. Don't bother with smartphone gimbals and just get this. We may not know what they'll put in the future Pocket 4, but if it takes another 4 years to make one, don't wait for it. And consider the accessories you may decide to pick up for this over here. Until then, keep shooting for the life that matters. See ya.